Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to our /MaliciousCompliance, where people follow exact orders despite the ones they hate. And in today's episode, nasty Karen bosses are at it again, guys. They're giving out dumb orders, power tripping, and one OP teaches a smug boss a lesson after they punish OP for doing their job. It's a wild one as always, so sit back, relax, and seriously try not to shake your heads too hard today. Let's dive in. Many years ago, I worked in retail. I worked in the number 3 office supply chain in the country. It's a small flex, as there were only 3 office supply chains at the time. Well, I had one of those district managers that went to district manager school and did all the district manager things. You know, sending emails with random words in bold, different fonts, colors. His emails read like William Shatner having a stroke. The dude was a company man and over-enthusiastic. Corporate had released a new policy, how we should set the standard for customer interaction. Don't just say hi or welcome to when a customer walks in, but treat them like you're happy they're there. We were to express interest in them on a unique level. If they're wearing a sports team hat and you know the team, you're supposed to say something like, "Hey, great game last night, right?" The idea was to personalize the experience. Don't just sound like an NPC in a video game, saying the same lines over and over again to everyone. Well, Mr. District Manager guy, living close to our store, popped in the day of the store meeting when this was all announced, and he decided to encourage us and lead by example. And that's actually pretty cool of him to do. But the guy also had a history of throwing tantrums, and we were like the bad news bears of the district. So it was more like treating us like little kids. It felt more condescending than anything. Mr. District Manager interprets the new policy to be talk to the customer like they're your best friend. We role-played, and he would berate employee after employee to get it right. Role-playing in retail's always awkward, and this isn't a theater trope. They aren't trained actors. The majority of staff is first-time high school kids and part-time college kids. And let me tell you, our performances were not Hollywood, but he wanted Hollywood. And me, I'm a sarcastic clown who loves having a little fun. The kind of guy that practices making ridiculous faces in the mirror so I can try them out on unsuspecting friends later. I love an audience. Don't give me an excuse to be ridiculous. So the store opens at 8 a.m., customers start coming in, and Mr. District Manager is still there. He's watching our performance and rating us, but not being as loudly snide in front of the customers. Finally, it's my turn. He once again repeats out loud, "Remember, you need to treat the customer like you treat your best friend walking into your house." Now, I recognize the customer who walked in. It's an old guy in his 60s who we gave the nickname Reno. And I know he heard every word Mr. District Manager said. Reno is one of our favorite customers, and you're about to understand why. Reno walks right up to me, and I say, "Hey dude, what's up?" He says, "You know man, same crap, different day, right?" I say, "Tell me about it. My stupid district manager's been a real pain in the ass lately, with some dumb new idea that's probably gonna blow up in his face." Reno laughs and says, "Sounds about right. Hey, I need to get some folders for a presentation for the condo association. You know where those are?" I say, "Back of the store. Find them yourself, dude. I'm not your servant." Reno says, "Fair enough. You think your manager buddies figured out how stupid this is yet?" I say, "I don't know, man. He's not that bright." With that, Reno laughs, loud as he's prone to, and he takes a step to my district manager and he gives him a big slap on the arm, the kind that ends with his hand gripping the arm up high by the shoulder. He stares at him in the eyes and gives his shoulder a small shake and says, "I think he'll figure it out. He doesn't want to make the store's best customer angry." Right about now, Mr. District Manager is beet red angry. If he were a cartoon, there would be steam coming out of his ears. He breathes and practically hisses through clenched teeth, asking, "Just what the hell are you trying to pull?" I just say to him, "What? You said to treat him like my best friend, and that's how I talk to my friends. And Reno practically lives here." Long story short, I got written up that day. #worth it. And it's also funny because there were so many times that I should have been fired from that job. Also, this was like 2004, so obviously, I didn't get the word-for-word banter perfectly memorized. But that's the kind of guy Reno was, and that's the kind of employee that I was, and that's the setup we were given. What a well-played malicious compliance, and the fact that OP got the write-up for that and was like, worth it, made the malicious compliance even better. But guys, what a stupid policy, right? Like, people who come in to buy office supplies just want office supplies. They're not looking to be best buddies with the employees. And it's even worse when customers can tell it's forced and fake. So after I left active duty service, serving on board a ship, all I wanted to do was drive. So in 1999, I got a job delivering meat in Southern California. It was a tough job, dealing with traffic, and my schedule was always tight, with 16 to 20 deliveries each day to local markets. I was mostly given inner-city routes with markets with limited space for mid-sized delivery trucks. One of my weekly stops was at a small market owned and run by an Iraqi immigrant. I'll just call him Ali. Now, Ali was always scheduled to be my 5th or 6th stop, and he would always complain to me why I would show up that late. I would usually show up at 9 a.m. each time, and he said he wanted to be the first one of the day. I told him I knew he opened each day after 8 a.m., and I start my route at about 6:15 a.m. Plus, I don't schedule my route. If he wanted to make sure he was the first delivery of the day, he would have to call my boss Steve, our delivery route supervisor. Now, Ali in fact called Steve because the very next week, I received special instructions that read, "Make sure Ali's Market is your first delivery of the day." I had my normal amount of stops that day, about 18, and I knew they'd all be pushed back at least 2 hours because I know Ali won't open until 8 a.m., and he won't open the rear door until an hour later. The rear door was for deliveries and trash bin access. So I begin driving at my usual time. I arrive at Ali's Market 15 minutes later, and Ali's Market is closed, but I had my orders. I'll make sure that Ali's Market is the first one of the day. So I park and wait, and at 8 o'clock, Ali shows up. He drives his old Benz around the back of my truck and parks, and he walks inside through the back door. I wait for him to open the front, and he ignores me. He was busy pretending to supervise the cashier. He's intentionally ignoring me, so I walk to the meat counter in the back, and the guy tells me he's not allowed to take deliveries, that I had to wait for Mr. Ali. At that point, I could have gone to make 2 or 3 deliveries and then return, but I had my very specific order. As I was walking towards the front to exit the market, I grabbed a newspaper, paid for it, and then told Ali, who was just standing there looking at me, "Let me know when you're ready to take your order. You know where I parked." Ali didn't say a word. Apparently, he was taking revenge for all these years for his small city market not being the #1 priority of a meat distributor who delivered beef, pork, chicken, cheese, and other products from over 12 distribution points throughout the United States. Steve arrives to his desk right after 10 a.m., and the first thing he saw on his computer screen was an alert of my truck sitting there for 4 hours. He calls me in a rage, demanding I explain to him why my truck was sitting for all that time. I explain that I was following his explicit orders to make sure I deliver to Ali's Market first. Steve then hangs up and calls Ali, and whatever Steve told Ali made him get his whiny butt out of his crappy little market and take delivery of his meat order. About 14 boxes of product, if I recall. I then begin to rush through the rest of my stops, not wasting time at all. And at the end of my day, I was the last driver back to the warehouse. I got an extra $80 overtime because Allie cried for not being the first delivery of the day. I never returned to see Allie again because we dropped his whiny butt as a customer after that. Good riddance is what I say, and honestly guys, this story was really good, but it would have been so much better if OP stopped at Allie's store and dropped off the entire order at 6:15, leaving everything to sit outside for 2 hours. Like, hey, you wanted to be the first stop, and you were, so enjoy the spoiled product. This next OP puts a power-tripping Karen boss in her place. Listen to this one. So here's a bit of background. I used to work at a popular grocery store that's known for rolling over for customers. I started working for this grocery store during my gap year before college. I wanted to save up some money before taking on the crippling burden that's student loans. When I started the job, it was easy enough and the vast amount of people were kind. I didn't have to deal with a lot of Karens and the hours were flexible. I really enjoyed my coworkers and managers. Life seemed great. That is, until our department gets a new boss. I don't know what it is about new bosses, but they always have to go on power trips to consolidate power and show everyone they mean business. Our Karen manager went around the department and she starts criticizing people for the stupidest things. Even if we're doing our job correctly, she would show up and tell us to work faster and we were stealing company time. We all hated her, but she's our boss, so we tried to do what we were told. With that all said, here's a bit about me. I pride myself on finding the quickest and most efficient way to do a job. Thanks for the upbringing, Mom. I applied this to any of my duties for the day. It just so happened that at the end of the day, we had to return products that customers left behind. I was voluntold to go do it. This wasn't an issue, as I had done this plenty of times before. So I went about my task and I finished in about 10 minutes. The second I got done, my Karen boss calls me into her office and the following conversation ensued. She says to me, "Close the door." Now, do you know why I called you in here? I respond, "No." She then goes on to say, "I'm trying to improve efficiency in this department, and you took way too long to do those go-backs. I won't tolerate people slacking off in my department, do you understand?" I try to defend myself and I say, I wasn't slacking off, I was just... She then cuts me off and she reiterates, "Do you understand?" Knowing I was being railroaded, I just sighed and I said, "Yes." She then says, "So to ensure you don't slack off again, you're forbidden from doing any more go-backs. I don't care if the store manager tells you otherwise. This is my department and you will do as I say. I'm your boss." I get a smile on my face as I realize what she just said. I just nod my head and reply, "Understood, I won't do the go-backs no matter what." My Karen manager replies with an umbrage smile and she says, "Good. Now go back to work and don't you forget what I said. I'm the boss." I reply, "Don't worry, message received loud and clear." A few days go by without incident until I finally get a chance to put my malicious compliance into action. The front desk supervisor sees that the go-back card is full and asks me to return the products. I just smile and say, "Sorry, supervisor. My Karen manager said that I was wasting time and I'm no longer allowed to return products." The supervisor gives me a weird look, but just shrugs and tells another coworker to do it instead. This cycle continues on for the next month. One day, the store manager happens to be manning the front desk. The end of the day rolls around and he looks at me and says, "Hey OP, we have a lot of go-backs. I need you to return them." I just say to him, "Sorry, store manager, I'm not allowed to do any go-backs anymore on account of slacking off." The store manager looks frustrated and he says, "I don't care if you're allowed to or not. I'm telling you to go take these back." Once again, I stand firm and I say, "Sorry, store manager, but Karen manager told me that I'm not allowed to do any more go-backs no matter what." And she told me not even if you told me to do it, and I'd better follow her orders. She told me that this is her department and she's the boss. The store manager looks pissed and storms into the manager's office. A few minutes later, the store manager calls Karen to his office over the intercom. Karen manager comes waddling out of her office and she goes into store manager's office. The door closes and we could all hear muffled yelling. After about 10 minutes, the door opens and Karen manager quietly shuffles out. She glared at me and she told me to come to her office. I happily complied and I said, "Yes, Karen manager, how can I be of assistance?" She says to me, "You're allowed to do go-backs again." I just smiled and left her office, happy that I could put a Karen manager in her place. Nothing is more satisfying than a power-tripping boss getting yelled at by their superior. And I just love how Opie played it out when talking to the store manager. "Oh, store manager, Karen told me to not even obey your orders. She's the boss." To be a fly on the wall in that office for the 10 minutes, hey? And this person comments, "I would have then proceeded to take hours to do the 10-minute job, saying, 'It's been so long, I don't remember how to do this quickly anymore.'" And this next OP tells a story about the time they were punished for working too well. Imagine that. I worked remotely for an auto parts company for almost 4 years, finally getting a promotion after the company merged with another. But even though I performed my duties better than the others in my department, I was effectively punished for being so good. I started working for a company founded in my area that had a reach around the world for classic auto parts. Sure, we had supplier issues, shipping delays, you name it. But we had the reputation for being such a large source of hard-to-find car parts, from Model T and A Fords all the way up to modern muscle cars and everything in between. One of the brilliant minds in the management team decided to purchase a new sales, parts, and service program for us, and it went downhill from there. Where one program would say that we had 10 pieces of one item, inventory would say that we had none. And where our accounting program would say a vendor was due payment, another would say that nothing was owed. No one really knew what was going on until after the culprit manager had left with a hefty severance package. We started losing business, customers, vendors, and I, as a case manager, had to put fires out daily trying to make customers happy. We had a high turnover rate because of this, and the company almost went bankrupt. Enter Big Auto Parts, the name changed for reasons. Big Auto Parts came in with promises to fix everything, and they did for the most part. They paid off vendors, closed out accounts, worked to repair bad relationships with everyone, and they let go 60% of the staff from the building in my town. It's sad, yes, but unfortunately, that's the price of business. About 6 months after the merger, I was promoted to Customer Operations Specialist. I no longer took calls, but I had to make them for any number of reasons. When I started this new position, there was another person there who I'll call Lucy. We had different duties in the same department. I would research the issue that came up, and she would call the customer to work out a solution. For a quick example, if an item they ordered was out of stock or delayed, I would find a different part or call the supplier for an ETA. This would go to Lucy, and she would call and ask the customer if they wanted to wait or accept a comparable item. It only took 3 weeks for Lucy to decide that she didn't fit in, and she left the company. This left a big hole to fill, and because I was used to calling customers, I was asked to do double duty. It worked out surprisingly well because I was already familiar with the situations, and I could make better suggestions while on the phone with the customers. My supervisor did recognize my success, and they put me in for a small raise, which I did get. I was making good money doing something I really enjoyed. The company started growing, and with it, more work needed to be done by everyone. We had a ticket system that, while not perfect, was adequate. Occasionally, there would be a hiccup in the system, and hundreds and sometimes thousands of irrelevant tickets would come across my desk. I started noticing patterns, and I would call them out to my supervisor so somebody with a higher pay scale than I could fix the issue, and we could all go home happy at the end of the day. Part of this growth meant that there were some issues in my department that would get way too many tickets for the assigned person to handle solo, so I was asked to cross-train and learn these other areas. It didn't take long, and soon, I was doing other people's jobs better than them. I think it was a combination of me wanting to succeed and them wanting to do the bare minimum, and this plays into my malicious compliance near the end of this story. We had a point system that tracked how many tickets we worked, how long we spent on them, and whether the ticket needed a follow-up or could be closed as satisfied. The majority of my tickets could be closed because of one reason or another, and I always hit the metrics asked in order to secure a weekly bonus of $2.50 more per hour. Meeting my bonus put me above the $20 per hour range every week, with very few exceptions, so I was satisfied, thinking I was doing a good job. They required me to make a minimum of 200 calls to customers and pass 2,400 points to make the bonus, and every week, I would make between 300 to 500 calls, and I would hit nearly 7,000 points. In my youth, I got a degree from a local community college in video production, and that's always been my passion, but I was good at my current job and happy to be there. I got to take biannual trips to the corporate office up north, and I made lots of friends, and even the owners of the company knew me by name due to my performance. My wife had changed jobs, and she was working for the local sheriff, and one day, she emails me that there was an opening in the media department. I applied, and I went through the 3-month process for possible employment, letting my current employer know that they would be receiving a background check call. The process went smoothly, even resulting in me getting a call from the sheriff himself, saying that he was excited I applied. So back to my current company. I had been talked to several times about my numbers, with my supervisor telling me that they were way too high, and no one else makes nearly that amount of points. When I said that I was just following the metrics and doing my job, he let me know that the changes were coming. On the day I received my call from the sheriff about being accepted as a new employee, I had a meeting with my supervisor. Before I could tell him I was leaving, he announced a new point system was to be implemented. And if my current week's numbers were applied to the new schedule, my current 7,000 points would only equal 1,800 points. Far below the minimum for a bonus. When I mentioned that this was essentially punishing good performance, he says to me, "Well, that's what the company wants to do." As I said earlier, this bonus put me above the $20 per hour line. My new job was going to start me above what I was making with the bonus, which made my decision to hand in my 2 weeks notice right then and there so much easier. What cemented my decision was when I found out that even though I was going to finish my scheduled 40-hour work week on a Friday, since the end of the pay week was Saturday and I wasn't working that day, I wouldn't get the comp time that I earned. They were going to withhold earned sick and vacation time because of a technicality after 4 years of faithful service. And the thing is, I actually liked my supervisor. He was younger than my married son and was disabled, a good kid with a great heart, but he hated that he had to follow procedure in punishing hard work. I told him as much, and I mentioned that I would only do what my original job description required, and nothing more for my last 2 weeks. And let me tell you, it was glorious. We could take time off if our work was done and we had nothing else to do for the rest of the day. I focused only on my originally assigned areas, and once completed, I would clock out, putting in my comp time to make up for not being on the clock. I was able to use up all my time by my last day there, and because I wasn't helping anyone else, their work began to stack up. Not that I was doing it to punish any of the friends I made at the company, but simply to get the point across. I could still see every ticket menu in the areas I had access, and their numbers began to climb out of control. I was contacted by my supervisor's boss on more than one occasion, begging me to help out. And when I would point out that it wouldn't be fair to take points away from the other people when I was about to leave, and that per policy, I was done with my assigned duties and I could therefore leave for the rest of the day, he would stammer, trying to convince me to do what's good for the company. I just simply said to him, I'm doing what's good for me. Unless you can offer me more than what the sheriff's willing to pay, I'll only do what I'm paid to do here until my last day. On my last day, I checked the ticket queue once again before signing off. My area had 0 tickets, and others where I worked that would average maybe 10 open or unworked tickets daily now showed hundreds upon hundreds. What made me feel better was about 6 months after I left, I got a Facebook message from one of my old coworkers I actually liked, wishing me a Merry Christmas and telling me that they had still not found anyone who could do as much work as I'd done. But I'm happy where I am, and I have plans to do this as long as I can, retiring one day after a long tenure here. I absolutely love stories like this, guys, where the hardest working employees punished quits, causing the place to suffer. Like, I just never get it though, how some companies don't recognize their best employees and oftentimes treat them as replaceable, only to find out in the end, oh, maybe we do need them. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of r/malicious compliance. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy stories. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's an r/entitled people episode, where psycho Karens are embarrassing their children. And the stories are so wild. Guys, go check it out if you haven't. And myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.